The one ear is talking about the old Roman Empire, and the one ear is talking about the old Roman Empire, and the other is not yet. It's talking about Great Britain, because Great Britain ruled. Great Britain. When you look at this prophecy, and when he was seeing what he was seeing on the Isle of Patmos in this vision, he was seeing the Roman Empire, and then he was seeing Great Britain coming to power, but it was not yet, okay? Meaning it was not established on the earth as a power yet, but it was coming, right? It says, this is Revelation chapter 17, verse 10. And there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, you know, France, the Greek, Germania Major, Germania Minor, and Spain, okay? Like I was saying, Revelation chapter 17, verse 10. And there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, and 1 is Roman Empire, and the other is not yet, Great Britain, not yet come. And when he comes, he must continue a short space. So the Great Britain, it was going to rule for a short amount of time. Verse 11. And the beast that was, right, and is not, even he is of the 8th. Now, he is of the 8th is talking about America, and is of the 7th. So, who are the 7th? The 8th is talking about America, but the 7th is Great Britain. So America was going to come out of that 7th. Right? The 7 heads. Hey! Hey, what's up, my man? What's up, my man? I'm filming right now. Okay? I'm filming right now. It says, verse 11, and the beast that was and is not yet, and goeth into perdition. So it's telling you in verse 11, I'll read it again. It said the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th, which is America, and is of the 7th, and goeth into perdition, meaning destruction. So it's telling you that the 8th that come out of the 7th is going to go into the destruction. So that's Babylon the Great, aka Rome, America. Okay? Verse 12. And the 10 horns, the EU, which thou sawest, are 10 kings which have received no kingdom as yet, because the EU wasn't in power yet. Okay? They wasn't in power yet when he was seeing his vision, but they in it today, right? In 2025, it says, but receive power as king 1 hour with the beast. Now, when you deal with that, you gotta divide 1,000. 1 day with the Most High is 1,000 years, and you divide 24 hours into 1,000 years, right? And it goes into, I think it goes into like 46.1, and that's a period of time. So that's what it is. It's a period of time, right? Man, I got all these distractions. I mean, hey, brothers, when y'all out here by yourselves, man, and you don't got brothers to watch it, you know what I'm saying? Hey, brothers, you know what I'm saying? To shun certain people that come up and you out here teaching, man, you got to deal with all type of stuff, man. All type of distractions, man. And then you got to stay on point, reading and breaking down the scriptures and stay focused, man. It's just a lot, man. You know, but what was I hit? it says, this is Revelation chapter 17, verse 12. And the 10 horns which thou hast received no kingdom as yet, but received power as kings 1 hour with the beast. Right? NATO and the EU. Right? In America sitting on top of the beast. These have one mind and shall give power and strength unto the beast. These have one mind. Okay? So, dealing with that one mind, let's see. Let's look up the word mind now. Let's see what we can get out of this. Right? What number is that? These have one mind. Right? Let's look at the word mind. Right there. And it says, okay, I'll read the definition. No mate, right? You're looking at the word mind right there. And that's Strong's G 1106. And it says, down at the last definition, it said decree. So the decree of NATO and the EU was going to be the decree of the ancient Roman Empire, and America was going to be sitting on top of that beast, pushing that vibration of the Roman Empire, man. All of them going to have that one mind. And then it says, mind concerning what ought to be done. That's it, man. That's it. That's it. So the whole system of the Roman Empire and America sitting on top of it, NATO and the EU, they all was going to be pushing what ought to be done in those decrees concerning like the ancient Roman Empire, man. You see? This is verse 12 again. This is Revelation chapter 17, verse 12. And the 10 horns which thou saw are 10 kings which have received no kingdom as yet, but received power as kings 1 hour with the beast. Verse 13. These have one mind and shall give the power and strength unto the beast. So what's to be done, and they're going to push out the decrees of the ancient Roman Empire on earth, man. Okay? Through America, man. America's the head, right? And when you look at the biggest military amongst NATO, it's America, man. Turkey is the second. And NATO and the EU gonna get bust up.
Europe is in shock just days before the German federal elections. Recent statements by several officials of the Trump administration suggest Germany, Ukraine, and the European Union are now on their own, as Trump suddenly recites Vladimir Putin's talking points. The war in Ukraine, the economic crisis, and a series of attacks by asylum seekers are unsettling many German voters. Now, the country's most important ally is turning its back. The US is negotiating directly with Russia, bypassing the Europeans. America is no longer a warrant of safety in the region. At the same time, representatives of the Trump administration are interfering in the electoral process by openly endorsing the partially far-right AfD. To the point we ask Trump and Putin, a new alliance to weaken Europe? Welcome to this week's To The Point. I'm Javier Arguedas. It's good to have you with us. Let's meet today's guests. Rachel Tausendfreund is a senior research fellow specialized in transatlantic relations at the German Council on Foreign Relations. Ulrike Herrmann is a business editor at Germany's daily Taz here in Berlin. And John Kampfner is a British author, journalist, and foreign affairs specialist based in Berlin. To all of you, welcome. Thank you for being here and for helping us try to make sense about what's going on these days. Rachel, I'd like to start with you. These last few days have seen, frankly, incredible statements by U.S. officials, especially regarding the war in Ukraine. Is it still clear which side the U.S. is on?
For Trump, it seems very unclear which side the U.S. is on. I mean, recently he was tweeting statements that made it seem like the Ukrainians started the war and that Ukraine is a dictatorship and Russia is a democracy. So that seems like a complete reversal of the U.S. position and, in fact, reality. That's not exactly true for everyone in the Trump administration, but when the president is taking on Putin's view of the conflict with Ukraine, that's troubling.
And it's especially troubling in the current context. These statements come days ahead of the German federal election. Ulrike, what's at stake for Germany and how does this all play into the campaign?
Well, the interesting thing is that the whole conflict around the Ukraine doesn't play any role now in the election campaigns because all parties try to keep out this topic, because it is very divisive in each party. It is not only an issue between the parties, but in each party. So the leaders really try not to talk about it. And they always say, well, let's wait, which is somehow true. You never know what happens next in this conflict. So they really try not to talk about it.
It's difficult not to talk about it because it is so important
yes,
and so crucial for the security. John, you've described in one of your articles Germany's relation to the U.S. as existential. Why did you say that?
Well, when Olaf Scholz made his Zeitenwende speech shortly after Putin invaded Ukraine in 2022, everybody thought that that was epoch-making. What happened at the Munich Security Conference really, really is, in my view, and I feel very confidence in the right word, but I feel sure about it, is that there is no going back. There is absolutely no going back to the warm embrace of the United States as the transatlantic guarantor and Europe, frankly, sitting on its hands. And for all countries, France, UK, and others, it's seismic. But for Germany, multiply that by 10. Because Germany has nothing else and nobody else to fall back on apart from the twin planks of Europe, the European Union, and wider NATO, and the United States. And when all of that is thrown into question, it is truly frightening for Germany. And I agree that it hasn't played a massive role, rhetorically at least. I think it has in people's minds, but not rhetorically in this election campaign. But the day after the elections, as soon as the new government, this is going to be priorities number 1 to 20. Everything else is insignificant compared to what's going on.
Just to add to that, I think why it's so significant for Germany is that Germany's strategic decision of foreign policy and how it was positioning itself in the world after World War II was Westbindung. Yeah. So sort of the strategic answer was, we're connected to the US, we're following the US. And now, if you don't have a connection to the US, if you don't have the protection of the US, you need to actually have a strategy. And this is a challenge that the Germans, are facing anew in a very complex situation. I think that's why it's especially dramatic in Berlin.
The big question is whether that connection to the U.S. still exists or not. The Munich Security Conference, which we just mentioned, took place last week and sent shockwaves through the European political spectrum. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance made a bold statement there, raising concerns not about external threats, but about a perceived internal decay within Europe itself.
The threat that I worry the most about vis-a-vis Europe is not Russia, it's not China, it's not any other external actor. And what I worry about is the threat from within, the retreat of Europe from some of its most fundamental values, values shared with the United States. In Britain and across Europe, free speech, I fear, is in retreat.
The democracy of the entire continent of Europe was called into question earlier by the US Vice President. He speaks of the annihilation of democracy, and if I have understood him correctly, he is comparing conditions in parts of Europe with those in authoritarian regimes. Ladies and gentlemen, that is unacceptable.
Das ist nicht akzeptabel.
The credibility of American security guarantees is being challenged, and the US is casting doubt on democratic institutions. Furthermore, they are openly interfering in elections, including their interactions with democratic parties with majority support. I must say this irritates me. While it doesn't surprise me as it was anticipated, I firmly reject it.
Verse 14, these shall make war with the Lamb. Now it said, these shall make war with the Lamb. Now this is talking about YAHAWASHI, because when the eighth go into perdition, right, which is America, when they go into perdition, before it go there, it's going to try to stop YAHAWASHI from delivering the elect that was written in the book of life, man. Okay, so this is 2nd Ezra. Let me see. Y'all bear with me. I'm dealing out here. Oh boy, I'm dealing. This is 2nd Ezra, chapter 13, verse 1. And it shall come to pass after 7 days, I dreamed a dream by night, and lo, there arose a wind from the sea, and then it moved. It moved all the waves thereof. So what it is YAHAWASHI coming back, and he letting everything know on the earth and in the ocean that he had dominion. He had power over everything. And behold, and lo, that man waxed strong with thousands of heavens. And when he turned his countenance, when he turned his countenance to look, all the things trembled that were seen under him, because he's going to be in the Father worship, and everybody going to be beneath him. So he's going to be in the heaven in the Father worship, and everybody going to be beneath him, right? And it says, verse 4, and whatsoever the voice went out of his mouth, they're talking about the laser beam, all they burned that heard his voice, like as the earth filleth with it filleth the fire. Verse 5. And after this I beheld, and lo, there was gathered together a multitude of men out of number from the four winds of the heavens to subdue. So what they tried to do was make YAHAWASHI subject unto them, NATO and the EU, the beast. Subdue the man that came out of the sea. Verse 6. But I beheld, and lo, he had graved himself a great mountain and flew upon it. Verse 7. But I would have seen the region of that place whereout the hill was graven, and I could not. So when he looked around, he couldn't see where the mountain was carved out. So it was the Father worship, and he described it as a mountain, right? Verse 8. And after this I beheld, and lo, all they which were gathered together to subdue him were sore afraid, but he put spirit on them to fight. And yet durst fight. Verse 9, and lo, as he saw the violence of the multitude that came, so they would shoot rockets, bomb, everything. They would shoot all type of military hardware. Okay? He neither lifted up his hand, nor held sword, nor an instrument of war, because it was an instrument of weaponry that was not of this world. It said, verse 10, which is a concentration, which was laser beam coming out of the chariot. He said, But only I saw that he had sent out of his mouth, out of the bottom of that chariot, as it had been a blast of fire, and out of his lip a flaming breath, and out of his tongue he cast out sparks and tempest. And they were all mingled together with great tempest, and fell with violence upon the multitude which were prepared to fight, and burned them up every one, so that upon a sudden of a innumerable multitude, nothing was to be perceived but only dust and smell of smoke. And when I saw it, I was afraid. So whenever seen that vision, that hologram, he was scared, man. When he seen that hologram, he was scared. But in this time we in right now, the people the military who's going to fight YAHAWASHI, they going to feel that fire. But Evans was afraid just seeing the hologram, man. Let me change this battery.